Do you want it to go to that?
The stand? Stand.
No, necessarily. This is fine. Is steady? Is it steady?
Yes.
Then, yeah, because one more thing came into my hands. So put it a little this side. It's very sensitive.
If you don't touch it, it's fine.
सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We began this series of 3 talks yesterday, and we covered certain pointers to how life gets messed up according to the Vedantic perspective. And the gist of the talk yesterday was there is a certain aspect of our mind which is called ego or ego process. Otherwise, the mind has a great amount of excellence in its functionality. Our mind is a wonderful tool, not only in dealing with money or machines or those things outside, even in understanding each other, in matters like loving, having sympathy, having empathy, working together, bearing with each other, adjusting with each other. There are 100 psychological things also where a mature mind is such a great friend, of such great help. But the ego is, again, in the psychological domain, ego is something which unfortunately creates a lot of illusions. Somebody gets a little money, he thinks so high of himself. Somebody is praised somewhere for her looks, she thinks she is very soon going to be Miss Canada. Some kind of either exaggeration or the opposite also. Someone is neglected somewhere, ignored somewhere, she or he may feel suicidal. My God, nobody wants me these days. This kind of out of proportion judgment about oneself is a main characteristic of ego. I might not have put it this way, but I tried in other ways to show the strange nature of ego. Ego is, I would once more use the word, the adjective strange. It goes away from an objective evaluation to see things as it is. From that it goes away. To put things in perspective is not the quality of ego. Ego exaggerates or makes something look so worthless and so on. And that is how life gets messed up. My message was that life gets messed up because of our egoism. Between spouses, between son and father, between brothers, between teachers and disciples, between wonderful scholars who are so knowledgeable. There is disharmony, there is intolerance sometimes, there is friction. And why? Within us also there is a conflict. As some scholars say, some philosophers say, within us certain thoughts do a lot of noise. And the summary of that noise is, you should have been like this. You should have been like this. And then another bunch of thoughts says, you are not at all acceptable. Your life is a failure. Or a third bunch of thoughts sometimes may say, you have done so well. So again, judgmentalism. The mind creates the gap between what I am and what I should have been. And the sad part is, not only what I should have been is a fancy imagination many a time, even the idea what I am is not factual. We label ourselves with regard to what I am. Suppose I have a certain X amount of money. That is a fact. My bank balance, my assets. But imagine, on the basis of that particular X amount in bank, Y amount as various assets, on the basis of that, if my mind says, look, how poor you are, how, you have a long way to go, some such thing. That is, if you say, I am poor, I am worthless, I have no future, that is very questionable. In this world, there are many who have so less and yet are happy. Unless it is, not even 2 meals a day. That's very rare. A lot of people among us, including us, many a times are depressed by a certain judgment of our own in terms of wealth or health or looks or social status, etc. We don't realize that the so-called social status many a time is the opinion of a society which is actually a mad society. Many a time this society at a given point of time has some crazy criteria to evaluate you. At different times, different things are valued. And even as science and technology advance, as an example, something that was highly valued at one time might be of no value at another time. A friend of mine was very good in stenography. He could listen and quickly all those notations. Then all kinds of audio recorders, all kinds of, nowadays AI, everything has come. So what would have been of great value at one time becomes worthless. Suppose I am a Sanskrit scholar and I am in a colony of all Hindus who value some scriptures, etc. My knowing Sanskrit will have a great value. Even as I come, he knows whole Gita by heart. If you have any grammar doubt on Upanishad, ask him. And that will give me a sense of I am cut above. Suppose I go on a tour to some Christian majority, Muslim majority colony country. I go anywhere, nobody cares. Then I may say, I don't like, I want to go back. Wait a minute. So you are being respected for your Sanskrit knowledge. Is it an absolute factor or is it relative to where you are? Clearly it is relative. By itself, knowledge of language doesn't make you great. So these are all examples where our frustration, our feeling low, and once in a while feeling on top of the world are questionable. That is where Vedanta comes in and says, hey, your sorrow, your agitation is not rooted in truth. The truth is, whether you know Sanskrit or not, whether you know stenography or not, or these days, so many technological pieces of knowledge, there are various things. Somebody comes and says, I did a postdoctoral in artificial intelligence, and then he uses some complicated words, embedded software or something, and some VLSI, very large-scale integration is my specialization. Vedanta says, hey, all that has a place, it is useful in some work, but a human being's worth, real worth of a human being should not be tied to those things to that extent. If your son is doing postdoctoral in VLSI, that is very, very large scale integration, in semiconductors such words come. This Intel and what you call that, AMD, these semiconductor corporations, companies, chip, silicon chip. So that cannot make your son as though an angel on the earth. What if your son, who is doing postdoctoral in VVLSI, doesn't treat his parents means you or his wife tomorrow, with sensibility? What is the use of all that doctoral, postdoctoral knowledge of semiconductor physics, etc.? So the question arises, without dilly-dallying, let me go to the core of the issue. In a rather beautiful and really penetrating manner, Vedanta says, if you know something on a deeper level about you, Vedanta asserts and affirms, confirms, every one of us has a certain dimension of our existence on a deeper level, and if only you know that, you are knowing Sanskrit or not, you are knowing some high technology or not, you are knowing languages or not, you are having a lot of bank balance or not, all of them take a back seat. They have some relevance at certain places, certain times. Money also, as they say many times, money can buy many things but not sleep. Money can buy many things but not love. Money has serious, sad limitations. That doesn't mean we throw money into the ocean. Every penny is valuable. So I need not go again and again to that. Money and knowledge and good looks and even very good physical health, which have a place of their own, are not so much in the core of what makes us feel at peace, be without conflict, reconciled to our own existence. The Atma Jnana that Vedanta talks about is no other than that core value. Vedanta uses a couple of technical words. Do not get afraid or do not get bewildered by those technical words. Very soon it becomes clear. These words like Sat and Chit, you are actually Sat, Chit, Ananda. The Upanishads. Vedanta is mainly the Upanishads. In a secondary sense, Vedanta is a number of other works also which are based on Upanishads. I am drawing certain points from Viveka-Chudāmani, a work attributed to Shankaracharya, and that is 100% based on Upanishads. If you are studying Viveka-Chudāmani, you also are studying a few Upanishads. Over 10 years or so, you will revisit Viveka-Chudāmani. More or less every shloka you will say, yes, this came in Brihadaranyaka. Yajnavalkya says this to Maitreyi. Somewhere else, this is nothing but a restatement of Kenopanishad. An unknown Rishi is saying over there to an unknown student. So, Upanishads are the launch pad. They are the original source. And Prakarana Granthas, this Viveka-Chudāmani, Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, Vedanta Sara, etc., Panchadashi of Vidyaranya, some, Swami Sadananda wrote Vedanta Sara. There is some Advaita Makaranda by Lakshmidhara Kavi. They are less known authors. Shankaracharya is the most well-known author of Advaita works. So there are many who have written. Then in Malayalam and Tamil, Kannada and Hindi, people have written. There are Vedanta works. All of them draw the fundamental truths from Upanishads. So Upanishads say, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. The highest truth of life, of the universe, and what is more, the truth of your existence also is Satyam, that is same as Sat. Jnanam is same as Chit. Anandam or Anantam and Anandam are closely related. Sachidananda is a well-known expression. What is Sat? I am is Sat. I am a man or woman comes later. I am tall or short, I am a educated or uneducated person comes later. Vedanta uncompromisingly says, all of them may have some place in the scheme of things, but none of them should actually determine your joy or sorrow. Your joy really will be unshaken if you contemplate upon what it means to say, I am Sat, what it means to say, I am Chit. And all Vedanta study is to give to us clarity on this. If we regard someone like Ramana Maharshi, who lived in Tiruvannamalai, he lived for the 71 years, we regard him as, there are many saints and sages. These days Ammachi also is regarded as an illumined, enlightened woman. So whoever it is, if you think that there is something divine about them, something spectacular, how come they are so serene, so calm, so happy, and they are able to remove the sorrow of others also? What is special? Vedanta's explanation, Vedanta is a science. Vedanta's explanation is, somewhere in their life, they clearly saw that Sat Chit in them. They understood Sat Chit is their nature, and they abide by it. Abide means they stay by it. They, in a manner of saying, there's nothing to hold on really, it's a realization. They, in a manner of saying, hold on to it. If you are anchored in that self-knowledge, other things are, not so capable of disturbing you. At the most, house is on fire. Not that, I'm such it. You put it out. You will do what is possible. After all, others also will do what is possible. Every one of us does what is possible. No one can do what is impossible. By definition, the impossible cannot be done. But those who do not have self-knowledge, not only are worried that my house caught fire, but they may even collapse, and they may get so agitated. They may start a blame game. They may, rather than solving the problem, fight with each other and add to the... So, towards sensible and balanced living and anchoring in self-knowledge is of great importance. Therefore, in the context of how we may rise above the mess, I will now take you to the next slide. This we saw yesterday. You may remember, yesterday we talked about an illustration. By some carelessness, a ball in our hands slips from our hands. We have, with great difficulty, climbed up to 36 steps. I gave the example. That was the previous shloka. It fell down, and before we could catch it, it fell further down, and further down. We had to come down all the 36 steps, collect it again. So, pramadataha patita keli kandukaha sopana pantau yatatata. 2 lines were in that illustration. Kandukaha, ball. Giving that illustration, as the verse we saw before said, if you and I don't live an alert life, we live a mechanical life, we become so habit-driven, we do not check what is the current situation, we do not keep an eye on how our mind is going overboard, and out of that lack of alertness, we slip and we become bahirmukam, the word came, we become extrovert. In this sense, we give more importance than what is due to something that happens around. Some other place, we may give so less importance to something which actually deserves more. In other words, a lot of improper evaluation takes place. We ignore our own brother or sister and go behind some stranger whom we liked and went behind him, and to another town we went away. My own mother might be sick, but I get some rich visitor with pearl necklace, etc. She praises me a little. She says, I have been looking for somebody like you, and I am a billionaire. Come with me. Instead of treating or even asking my mother, can I go for some time? She needs medicine, she needs care. I may just go. So in umpteen ways, in relationships, we lose our head and behave egoistically. That is what was called becoming extrovert and slipping. In contrast is today's verse. This also has a very beautiful thought, no illustration really, but in a very poetic way, using beautiful words, the shloka says the opposite. If instead of becoming mechanical, instead of being driven by false values, that is falling for some questionable attractions, etc., if we turn our mind inward and position it in that awareness, these words become clearer and clearer as you study Vedanta more, but they are wonderful words which sort of hold your hand and take you inward towards a certain sadhana. The shloka goes like this. Pratyak means inward. Yatha yatha pratyagavastitam manaha tatha tatha munchati bahya vasanah nishesha mokshe sati vasananam swatma atmanubhuti pratibandha shunya. Instead of being so charmed without much thinking by attractions, instead of getting provoked by something happens without enough thoughtfulness, that's how our life becomes mechanical. Sometimes we hear a word and we react. Somebody says some word and we raise our hand, don't talk about it. Then that person may say, you have not heard my complete sentence. She may say, oh, Uncle Ram, I get angry. Because I imagine that she is saying, I have invited Uncle Ram, he is coming tomorrow morning. I don't like Uncle Ram, let us say. Then she says, you haven't even heard my full sentence. I'm saying Uncle Ram, who wants to come, has cancelled his trip. Doesn't it happen to all of us, even to scholars like me? Some word, some symbol, some gesture, So that is called Bahirmukam. Pratyagavastitam means we are alert and we don't allow the mind to fling, to jump to a reaction. Rather, in many situations, until all necessary information comes to us, we say, tell me more, Not mechanically, that also can become mechanically sometimes. We are such people. In the name of balanced behavior, we actually sometimes behave mechanically. You have given all information. Tell me something more. What is there to tell? Many a time, So it's a tricky affair. To live in gentle alertness is not copy somebody's behavior. The real work is inside. So pratyagavastitam is a wonderful expression. Your mind is held back without losing alertness. And as you learn to remain watchful, attentive, alert, whatever is the word, then a number of your old tendencies for which you paid a heavy price, that's called vasana. In Vedanta, vasana means habitual tendency. Habit actually is a terrible thing. By habit we do, not out of thinking, not out of present awareness. I believe there was a priest who used to conduct this homa, havan, etc. And his young son would sit and watch. Eventually that young son becomes the priest when the father dies. The son has been watching. Every time when the havan, homa, starts, the older father would bring a basket, and they had a cat in their house. He would put the cat below the basket so that the cat would not come and disturb the homakunda, the samagri, the material. He should not. And the son has been watching. And little prematurely perhaps, the father died when he was 43 or 45. The son, who had learnt the mantras, who had now learnt the way to do homa and havana, he started functioning, various homa and havana. Now, within 3 days of his father dying, the cat also died. Now, son, I believe, started doing the homa, havana for the town. People would ask for some ritual. Every samagri he brought. Then he said, the cat has died. So he went to market, he got a cat, and this is a well-known story. He said, this part of all these rituals is there has to be a cat, and that cat has to be kept under the basket. That is called mechanical thinking. In a certain classroom, during some season, there would be sun inside, sun coming in. So one of the students would go and close the curtains. During certain other months, there is no sun coming. But the students had become mechanical. When class starts, they would pull the curtain down. So there are many such things we do. Vasanas are like that. There are times when you are truly hungry, we will like to eat, understandable. But every time we pass in front of Tim Hortons or some nice restaurant, because you and I had gone there before and enjoyed. Today we are not hungry. Actually we have important work to do. But mechanically, I didn't know there is this restaurant is this part. You stop. Then our desire also has become mechanical and not rooted in the actuality. When you are hungry, it is different. As we get older, for example, many of our impulses, many of our urges, many of our old ways get weakened. But still, though we are old, we want to do what we did when we were 30-year-old, when we were 40-year-old. That's mechanical. In fact, in life, more than scholarship, developing this ability to observe ourselves. Are we really thirsty? Are we really hungry? Do we really need this? Do I really have to say this? At a certain time, it was appropriate for me to say this. My daughter has grown up now. Now I should not say it anymore. She has become mature. My son is now more knowledgeable than I am. I better not, just by habit. It's easier said than done. Many of us, go on and on. I joke on myself. When I'm talking about a serious topic, I remember suddenly a joke. And then the intelligence, cleverness in me says, but that joke, though it is a good one, has no relevance to what you are talking. Then another part of the clever mind says, let us see how to connect it somehow. Somehow you connect it, make it relevant, and then when audience laughs, it gives a kick to the speaker. I made them all laugh. It is silly. And it does injustice to your job actually. When it is not relevant, if one is living a more alert life, if one is more passionate about conveying the truths of this philosophy, however wonderful that joke may be, one must say, let it go. I am not here to entertain this audience. There are many comedians and others who do it. My job is to convey something which will be helpful to them in their life. That kind of, without all these words, that's called alertness. And I would dare say that this sloka talks about that kind of intelligent withdrawal from mere habitual tendencies, vasanas. And as vasanas reduce, the shloka second half says, vasananam nishesha mokshe sati. Moksha itself means they are going away. Here moksha is not our liberation. Vasananam moksha. Vasanas leaving us. Nishesha moksha means when all vasanas leave us. Really speaking, it should not be taken so literally. But all the troublesome vasanas, a large number of vasanas which had caused problem to us, which made us get angry at wrong times, which made us indulge in pleasure at wrong time, where there was no need for that and so on. So, to a large extent, don't take this Nishesha Mokshe literally, because somebody once asked me, so vasana means habitual tendency. Suppose I have a vasana to take a cup of coffee as soon as I get up, within 15 minutes of my getting up. So to get liberated Atmajnana, does such vasana have to leave me literally? The answer is no. By taking a coffee within 15 minutes of your waking up, it cannot come in the way of your Atmajnana. There are many things, these are not so important. Before enlightenment, so-called enlightenment, or after liberation, you may love coffee as much as before. So more than coffee or music or movie or some sports or some reading, there are some, all of us have some hobbies and certain, they are not important. But suppose it is something more than that. Suppose I have a prejudice against certain community. I have a prejudice against or for some language. I have a prejudice for or against color of the skin. I have a prejudice for or against somebody with some physical features. Or I think that all doctors, are not to be trusted. Some professional group. These, of course, have to go. They have to go because that causes problem in relationship and perception. This coffee, tea, etc. are not important. Nor am I encouraging to drink more coffee, saying this. But they are less important. Mokshe sati, nishesha mokshe. Large number of habitual tendencies, mechanical living leaves you, nishesha mokshe, atma anubhutihi. You are experiencing your own pure self, Satchit, becomes free of obstacles. Pratibandha means obstacle. Atma anubhuti, pratibandha shunya. Shunya, zero. Zero obstacles. Because our mechanicalness is the issue. Yesterday also I had quoted Pujya Swami Chinmayananji used to say, alert and vigilant living is the truest sadhana, more than scholarship. Suppose you and I know many shlokas or mantras, we know portions of some holy book by heart. 3 pages we can say from page 1 to 3 or from 3 to 1. All that is good. In some competition you may be awarded a prize. And people may say, here comes this lady, she knows whole Bhagavatam by heart. We respect it, it's wonderful. But if it is a matter of moksha, more than scholarship, whether this lady or this man or us, whether we are having a certain gentle awareness, alertness, which is sometimes called presence of mind. Presence of mind, common sense. Spirituality can never be separated from common sense. So, Atma Anubhuti Pratibandha Shunya. And in that context, there is another shloka. I jump to 364. This is the last shloka for this session. The Viveka-Chudāmani goes to some concrete outline of how we may get that ability to turn inward, how we may get that ability, what kind of practices. In the Vedanta sadhana, mainly there are 3 practices. Shravana, Manana, it is called Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is popularly called Dhyana. Shravana is not number of hours, how many hours you hear Vedanta, not the duration, quantity, though generally of course you have to hear quite a lot. Very rarely anybody gets the crux of Vedanta in 1 or 2 lectures. Typically yes, sometimes years and years of listening to different teachers. Then on one hand you also have questions rising in your mind. On the other, maybe such a competent teacher comes in your life. What she says or what he says might go to the center of your confusion and say, oh my God, today the matter became clear. So Shravana, technically, there is a book called Vedanta Sara. The author Sadananda says, it is Tatparya Nirnaya Rupam Shravanam. You may hear a lot. Shravana literally means listening. You listen to Vedanta discourses on Atmajnana. Today you may listen to something wonderful on YouTube also. Though personal contact has its value, once in a while something you hear on YouTube can also be very effective. Let's not exclude it. Let's not be too orthodox to say, no, you can't get knowledge through YouTube. You have to be sitting in front of... No, we need not overemphasize it, but of course, if you are around very saintly, knowledgeable, and more than bookish knowledge, you are around people who are in their real life, not just in their public appearances, but even in their private life, they are sort of anchored in what we call Atmanishta. Nishta itself is anchoring. Atmani, Nishta, Atmanishta. That is, Nishta is staying firmly in the understanding of there being Satchit, whereas normally the continuous flow of thoughts in you and me makes us anchor ourselves in certain description of our personality in terms of health and wealth and social status. Even a speaker on Vedanta like me, unless I do lot of sadhana, lot of sincere exploration, a speaker like me also can mainly be anchored in my being a speaker, my being a writer, my being a well-received author, well-received, knowledgeable person. Vedanta says you have to let go of that. You are Satchit. Satchit is not a speaker or writer. Satchit is not a pravachanankar. Satchit is being a speaker or writer or chanting something, reciting something, quoting the right mantra or right sentence from some big book which audience don't know, is not integral, is not central to spiritual height. So please understand, Atmanishta is whether you are scholarly or not, whether you are expressive or not, whether you articulate philosophical truths well or not. In you, there is a very clear, unshaken understanding. My social status doesn't matter to me. If people respect me for the nice house I have, the good car I have, good, fine. But in the light of the spiritual wisdom that I have gained, really speaking, my self-worth doesn't depend on these things. A certain understanding of that kind will come to you if you are spiritual, if you stay in the company, if you listen. That is Shravana. It becomes more and more clear that what all our life we have been giving importance to, I don't hate them, I don't hate a good car, I don't hate a big house, but I don't have to depend so much, I don't have to cling to it for my own inner sense of how valuable, how worthy I am. See, my self-worth doesn't have to depend on these external things. Then Shravana has brought you to the crux of the matter. Now, with all that beautifully expressed and understood, there will be logical doubts. But all said and done, all this spirituality is okay. But we need a big house, we need a good name, we need, if not thousands, at least a few hundreds, suppose, are our fans. Suppose hundreds, what is it? Facebook friends and Instagram friends, and now there are so many media friends. So I should have so many likes, so many people who follow me. Even I now open up Instagram. How many are following me as of today? Only 220. One of my friends has 2,500 followers, suppose we say. So, mind will argue with all due respect to your Vedanta, in real life, it is good to have a lot of wealth and a lot of popularity. In Vedanta, in spirituality, the Swamis and Pravachanakars come and say, you don't need anything to be happy. And they should say it is their job. But for us householders, for us with 2 children or 3, for mind will argue. And Swami's mind also argues in some other way. I myself joked on myself other day in some house, that till I started my ashram in January, I was really free. I was not. I saying, no, I have got an ashram to run. Now I also become a grahastha. I also need no funds to. It is not true. Actually, higher you go, when you logically think, and there are ways, there are logical approaches that good speakers, good teachers share with us. You go by that, you find that whether you are a householder or a Swamiji running an ashram or any other, none of them actually requires, if you have spiritual maturity, taking care of family, children, etc., taking care of an ashram that has monthly so much expense daily, all that will be a secondary thing. Primarily, you have got this insight, a sense of well-being, unconditional well-being descends in your bosom. And then, not out of some kind of fear, not out of some kind of insecurity, not out of some kind of urgency, but as an expression of that joy and common sense. If some money is required, you will find how I may get some money. You will get. So, manana is logically becoming free of doubt with regard to what you have identified through Shravana, Shruta is Shravana. Through Shravana you identify, this is what Vedanta says. Through Manana you remove many doubts about it. And then Nididhyasa, that is Dhyana, is the third level. And this shloka says, Shruti, Shravana itself is most valuable. Manana is Shatagunam, 100 times more valuable. If you arrive at Dhyana, that is 100,000 times. And here and there, if your mind becomes utterly quiet, you are alert, but mind is quiet. That is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That is Ananta. By praising these 4 stages, in strict Vedanta, the 4th is not highlighted actually, but Viveka-Chudāmani gets into it. In strict Vedanta, rigorous Vedanta, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa, complete. Yajnavalkya says in Brahadaranyaka, Atmava are drashtavyaha. You must have vision of the pure self. And towards that, Atmava are shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, nididhyasitavyaha. Nothing more he says. Maitreyi, his older wife, is the listener. So, studying carefully to identify the core teaching, removal of doubts by some more study and discussion, and then having understood and having removed doubts, you begin to stay in it, because old tendencies can again disturb you. In this way, Shravana, Manana, Dhyana, and yes, going to Samadhi, that is, I would once more say, that is included in this shloka, which is not wrong, but which is not so necessary also. Therefore, in conclusion for today, I would say, the study of Vedanta to you and me gives greater and greater understanding of what we could do inwardly to arrive at peace, happiness, harmonious relationships. In our immaturity sometimes, even when my relation with somebody is spoiled, I think, tomorrow I will get one very good gift and give him, then my relation will be. This gift and this, I will tomorrow take him to a restaurant and I'll pay the bill. I will tomorrow. So we think more in such grosser things. Grosser things have a place, we don't say no. But the actual rebuilding a relationship is very different. It is on a subtler level. In fact, if you, in the heart of hearts, do not want to exploit another person, man or lady, they will know the vibrations about you change. When, let me say this and complete today's lecture, when another person, over a few days, over a few interactions, gets a feeling there's some change in her, some change in him. She or he earlier was always trying to be clever and get something from me. Nowadays, it seems she doesn't want to tap anything, extract anything. She loves me, he loves me for love's own sake. This is not poetry. In human excellence, that is how relationships change. We love each other, not keeping an eye on each other's wealth or something you can get from them. That is incidental. So, that is how Vedanta empowers us to build better relationships. All peaceful vibrations towards others become a reality when we experience peace within ourselves. Inside we are keeping some conflicts unresolved, but outwardly we want to do some surface changes. It could be as silly as, I want to, nowadays my relation with this friend is disturbed. I think tomorrow I will wear some special dress and go. What will dress do? These are silly things. Not dress, not money, not all those external things. Can you reflect, introspect, and take out from your heart the tiniest trace of rejecting her or rejecting him or some negative relationship, Cleanse it, cleanse your heart. And then, irrespective of outer factors, the other person will feel a difference. Because you and I are much more than the logical brain. We are actually certain intelligent beings inside. We feel the vibrations of people. Any single question? And we will conclude today. Or a comment?
10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes. Therefore, question answer. This is over. Tomorrow I have another 2 verses. This English translation is also given. But some thought came to anybody about this? If anybody thinks that this is all up in the air, Swamiji, 40 years has changed you so much. You have forgotten what real life is. You may want to say that. Or any Sanskrit doubt in this, any word is not clear? We started here or? Yes, we started in this. Then covered 2 verses today.
Actually, Swamiji, eliminating these desires are not easy. And even as we get older,
Yeah. कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि शिवं शिवानी सहितं नमामि. The first evening we dwelt upon why and how life gets messed up, and our attempt was to show that more than the outer world, more than how others behave, our life gets messed up. By messed up we mean we have anxiety, we have certain dissatisfaction. The words are many, pointing to different levels of the inner turmoil. We have relationship problems, we are hurt, we are maybe envious, or we carry some regrets. All this is in a colloquial language called mess. And I attempted to show that it is psychological mess. By calling it psychological, what we meant was it is all because of a certain ego gets built in us. I, me and mine. My position, how I am looked at by others, sometimes how my own mind looks at me, all these come into the picture. So, we had seen certain slides and the shlokas that we took from Shankaracharya's Viveka-Chudāmani talked about the role of our own mind in deciding the quality of our life. Quality, happiness or sorrow. So the shloka in 2 sentences said, just as wind brings clouds in the sky, wind alone takes the clouds away, our mind, if not handled properly, brings so many agitations to us. Once the mind is handled better, thanks to satsanga, thanks to spiritual learning and practices, the same mind very beautifully sends away worries and agitations and so on. Likewise, a warning was given that if we live mechanically, if we forget our goal, if we do not exercise necessary attention on how our mind is operating, then, like this shloka had said, a ball that slips from somebody's hands and goes down and down a staircase. You might have taken that ball and climbed up 36 steps, but by one slip, the ball falls and goes all the way down the staircase. Like that, if you and I are not alert enough, attentive enough, our mind on one hand and this mad world on the other, they together ensure that we go down the scale of happiness. That was this Sopana Panktau Patito Yathatata. Sopana Pankti is the Sanskrit word for a staircase. And yesterday we took 2 more verses in contrast to how the human mind of you and me can go down the scale in happiness. There is the wonderful possibility of that same human mind of you and me rising higher and higher in love, in happiness, in certain inexplicable security within ourselves. Come what may, we rather would say, okay, let's see what best can be done. What do we get by worrying? What do we get by crying? We'll do the best and leave the rest. So a whole lot of positive emotions, a whole lot of inner strength which may puzzle ourselves also rises in us, and Viveka-Chudāmani says That kind of rising above the previous psychological mess is possible when we learn the art of turning inward. Turning inward, pratyagavastitam. Pratyak means inner. Mind, manaha, goes inward, and that is where all religions, all spirituality asks us to meditate. Spirituality asks us to contemplate, maybe on a God form, maybe on some light within ourselves. The ways one may meditate are many, but through all of them, one thing is certain, one thing is common to all of them. We no more pursue things of the outer world so much as before. We no more cling to what life gave us. Suppose we meet with financial loss. There are two possibilities. Let's say we suffered a big financial loss, as an example. Possibility one is you really feel bad and you cry, but in a day or two, you don't anymore go into it. You see what can be done and get busy with it. Second possibility is, with regard to what happened, that financial loss in this example, days on end, weeks on end, months on end, even years at a stretch, one could be just, what do you call that, like a broken record. Now the gramophone records are no more in use, but like a broken record, saying, my life was going on so well, but 2007 such and such thing happened. 19 years have passed. So that's what I am saying. This mind has a tendency to brood on what has happened, cling to memories, and hold on to some judgments and beliefs, or, as this shloka says, it can turn inward. Inside us there is certain silence. Spirituality reveals that deep inside you, peace is waiting for you to discover, but you are not turning inward. And it said, when outgoing tendencies reduce, swatmanubhuti, the experience of the inner joy that Vedanta talks about, becomes pratibandha shunya, becomes free of any obstacles. Therefore, don't say, this Vedanta, this spirituality, this meditation, this turning inward is not my cup of tea. Don't say. Every one of us, however outturned we were at one time, can go inward. And I attempted showing or saying yesterday that this going inward is never at the cost of our functionality, our doing our duties. Then how do we find time and energy to go inward? Time and energy has to be found by cutting down or keeping away unnecessary things. For an ounce of what is our business, generally we get into pounds and pounds of what is none of our business. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a sentence, powerful sentence, Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. 5,000 years ago, Sri Krishna used the word Swadharma, something where we truly belong. Swadharma can mean our duties, our nature, our temperament, our way. We are made by God, by nature in a certain way. Accordingly, our duties actually shape up. Paradharma is what is not in line with our nature, what some fancy, some imagination, some kind of delusion, moha, makes us do. So, Sri Krishna uses paradharma is dangerous, swadharma is where you find peace. So we take the liberty to translate. Paradharma is what is none of your business. Swadharma is what your business is. So you reflect on it. So the one last shloka we saw yesterday was, in order that this inner change may take place in us, there are stages in the Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge. First is Shruti. Shrutehe, the word is Shruti. Shruti is same as Shravana. Shravana is listening to certain competent teachers who have reflected a lot on the subject, who have tried those practices, who have come to experience, if not enlightenment, a high degree of inner tranquility in themselves, not at the cost of duties, not at the cost of what we owe to the society, what we owe to our mother and father, to brothers and sisters, to the society, to our organization which gives us our paycheck. There are many things where we owe to somebody. We owe to ourselves also. We owe to our own body certain upkeep. We owe to our own mind certain, if not call it entertainment, some way relaxation. And when we need to relax, we should relax. When we need to sleep, we should sleep. If we deny to ourselves exercise or sleep or healthy food and eat junk food and live in some erratic way, then we are denying to ourselves what we owe to ourselves. So we must listen to those who have brought a higher degree of order in their life. Typically, the gurus use scriptures such as Gita, Upanishads. The Shravana itself is wonderful, but reflecting on what you hear is 100 times more powerful. Meditation on what you have understood is 100,000 times more powerful. And if here and there even a little bit of inner experience of samadhi, the word used is nididhyasa and nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpa refers to nirvikalpa samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi literally means the mind which generally is all the time thinking of persons, objects, places, events, what happened, what may happen, and all those scenarios, goes to nirvikalpa. Vikalpa means duality. Vikalpa means choices. And nirvikalpa means the mind goes into an alert silence. The silence of sleep is not nirvikalpa samadhi. Sometimes the question arises, in nirvikalpa samadhi also it is said one is supremely happy. Why go for samadhi? In deep sleep also I am supremely happy. No. In deep sleep you are not aware of anything. In nirvikalpa samadhi you are aware of the surroundings, you are aware of your own being in a certain special state, but though you are aware, there are no thoughts, no objects. So it is said to be of greatest, it's greatest bliss. So we move forward, and if we follow spirituality, if we understand the theory of spirituality and then practice the practical side of it, the scriptures like Upanishads, Viveka-Chudāmani assure us that we will be able to live in a joyous manner. So the contours of joyous living is our topic this evening, and there is again a selection. 2 shlokas are selected. Let me read this 440th verse. Viveka-Chudāmani has 581 shlokas. As we said in the very first session, Viveka-Chudāmani is one of the most beautiful and very, very comprehensive works on Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual philosophy, where using really excellent language, Sanskrit, wonderful illustrations, lot of very, very appealing logic, therefore appealing to our head and to our heart. Viveka-Chudāmani goes through those verses, it lifts us. So I have taken something which is almost towards the end, 440th verse. If you have the doubt, what marks that joyous living? Contours of joyous living. That is one who has kept one's ego totally under check. You and I suffer because we are unable to manage our ego. Our own mind becomes the worst enemy of ours. In Gita it is said, you are your best friend, you are your worst enemy too. You are your greatest bandhu. Bandhu means friend. And you are your greatest, what is the word used there? Ari or Shatru. You are worst enemy. So the shloka goes like this. The mark of freedom, mark of enlightenment. Sadhu vipujyamanesmin pidyamanepi durjanaihi samabhavo bhavedyasya sajivan mukta ishyate. If we are curious to know, okay, let's say somebody has the so-called spiritual wisdom, in what way is she different from others? The answer is given. The main difference is 99,999 among 100,000 people, upon being honored, upon being praised. Pujyamana means being worshipped literally, but it's not just worshipping with flowers and arti and so on. Pujyamana means when you are honored, well received, when people give much attention to you, when people, as you come, maybe get up and say, please come, and they single you out for giving some special, showing some special regard. When those things happen, 99,999, in a manner of saying, they feel very happy. They want to, come more and more to that place. A friend of mine very much looked like Sachin Tendulkar. He was not Sachin Tendulkar. He was standing one day at Delhi airport, and a bunch of people went to him and said, can we have a selfie with you? Can we get your autograph? I have something to ask you, may I? And this man, whose name was Shivram Bhatt, he said, oh, you want a selfie? Please take. They took selfie also. And some people took his signature on something. But when he wrote signature, those fellows said, he wrote Shivram Bhatt. Are you not Sachin Tendulkar? Did I say I am Sachin Tendulkar? But he said to us, he knew us. That day when that happened, I knew even as they were coming near that, they mistook me for Sachin Tendulkar. But I didn't caution them. Are you approaching me thinking I am Sachin Tendulkar? I said, let the show go on a little more. He quoted a line from old Devanand song. There is a song, Pal bhar ke liye koi pyar kar le, jhoota hi sahi. Even if it is false, maja to aate hai. You feel happy. Pujyamane, you feel happy. Pidyamane, some places without rhyme or reason we are ill-treated, we are totally ignored, we are neglected, we do a lot for somebody and that guy doesn't even say thank you and just walks away. Then 99,999 out of 100,000 feel very jittery. What's happening today? Is this why I came here? And so on. I believe somebody went somewhere expecting a lot of good treatment, but he was insulted. He got angry. I didn't come here to get insulted. The other guy said, where do you go normally for getting insulted? That was adding insult to injury, or adding to the insult. So the shloka says, the marks of a joyous living is you don't depend upon people's praise. You don't depend upon puja, which is good treatment. Nor do you fear, nor do you, avoid. Even if something is your duty, it may be an unpleasant duty, you may be criticized for discharging your duty. Some people may not like it when you do what is right thing to do, but inside you there is some strength. So Viveka-Chudāmani, when they say we don't appreciate this, you have the inner strength to say, I know, I didn't expect you to appreciate it, but if you have the time, I'll explain why I had to do this. It's not for my personal gratification. So in whatever way, see, the idea is samatva, equanimity, being equal. In Gita, Sri Krishna says, samatvam yoga uchyate. One of the shlokas, being equal in joy and sorrow is the hallmark of yoga. So, samabhavaha, the word is here, third line, samabhavaha. Inwardly you recognize, hey, all these people are not appreciating me. Not that you truly like it, but there is something in you, you are in some way, and some way is no other than in a spiritual way you are very rich. A rich man loses $10,000, it doesn't pinch him much. A person whose income is less, loss of $10,000 might give him sleepless nights. It is said, you take some salt and put in a glass of water, stir it well, and ask somebody to drink. One sip, the man will make a face. But same amount of salt, suppose is dissolved in a huge vessel filled with water. Then give a glass of water from that to somebody. They drink it and they say, it's slightly salty. Was there some salt in it? Still it was good, thank you. So the salt is the same. But in one case it was dissolved in a glass of water, 500 ml. In another case it was dissolved in 500 liters of water. Like that, when you and I let go of our ego, we have only got bound by always expecting praise, getting so used to praise, getting much used to always expecting. Chinmayanandaji used to say, if you make an appointment with future, I'm going over there and they are going to garland me. In fact, they may not garland anybody else, but I'm sure to be garlanded. Like that, visualizing some happy, treatment, he calls making appointment with future. And his famous statement in this matter is, disappointment comes to them who make appointment with future. He was very witty in choice of words. You imagined that you would be treated in a certain way, and it did not happen. In fact, logically, when nothing happened, they neither honored you nor insulted you. In fact, they did basic courtesy. They gave you a glass of water, they gave you a seat. But if you were expecting that as I walk in, all of them will rise and show excitement about my coming there, wait a minute. You created the situation. So when there is no ego, generally it is asked, maybe other day also I raised this point, egoism and self-respect, what is the difference? Egoism is where we expect special attention to us, where it not really is required, not really is appropriate, but we are hoping, we are desiring. Self-respect is how society runs, how, in fact, in that matter, not us. Somebody else is not given due regard, we'll say, that's not appropriate. He is the father, and these three boys were talking without showing respect. He is their teacher. He had done so good for these people. He was the benefactor, and these were for last 5 years beneficiaries. But they talk so lightly of him or her. So not only for yourself, but in that kind of scenario, for others also you would expect, good treatment. Then it is self-respect. That is nothing else but you evaluate yourself on factual factors. Factual, Where ego is where you move away from facts and based on your fancies and desires and wanting some repetition of something you enjoyed long back. Times have changed, but you still want the kind of treatment you got long back. And you don't get it, you feel unhappy. So ego is rooted in certain memories, rooted in certain fancy, rooted in certain forms of thinking which are no more relevant. There was somebody who happened to be great-grandson of a well-known scholar 100 years ago. So when he came somewhere, he was expecting some special attention. Some people knew that he is the great-grandson of that big scholar who was in the court of a king or something. So, but nobody made much of it. And he started, you all know who I am? And then he got irritated also. You know who I am and yet you are not, this is not. But your great-grandfather was a great scholar, we know, but what are you? So, egoism wants to be respected, etc., where the grounds are not all that factual, not all that appropriate. So ego stands on a foundation of falsehood, whereas self-respect stands on the foundation of reality. You, at this moment, you yourself have accomplished something, have done something for somebody, and if you expect thank you from him, some gratitude, it is very much in order. Thanks to spirituality, even in that case, where going by self-respect you should have been treated well. Suppose they don't treat you well, if you are spiritually mature, you note it, but do not have any fuss about it. That is going even higher. So there is the egoistic level, then there is the normal level of self-respect, and the spiritually awakened level is where you really are above. Therefore we talk about yesterday's topic, rising above psychological level. Samabhavo bhavedyasya sajivan mukta uchyate. They asked Ramana Maharshi, what is the mark of an enlightened person? Most of you know Ramana Maharshi in the last century was a very excellent, preeminent case of self-realization, self-knowledge. Living in a place called Thiruvannamalai in south, he met lots of people and scholars and common people, foreigners and Indians, all appreciated his serenity, his calmness, and his intelligence, his simplicity, his humility. Even though he had the highest spiritual wisdom, he never behaved as though he was a little superior to others. There is one instance, for example, those days, all this photography, video, all this was very less. Some photography was there, but hardly, So somebody came to meet Ramana Maharshi and came to the ashram and wondered, today I have come, did not check actually whether Maharshi Ramana is in the campus or not. Who knows, he might have gone somewhere. So that person asked one gardener, is Maharshi there? Is Maharshi in the campus? The gardener who is doing some work says, Maharshi is very much in the campus. And the man goes in, asks, where is Maharshi? Where is Maharshi? People guide him. Finally, they guide him to that gardener only. That gardener was the Maharshi. So the visitor says, Swami, why didn't you say, I am Maharshi Ramana? He smiled. You didn't ask. You just asked whether Maharshi is in the campus. I said, he is very much. Why should I say, I am Maharshi? So there was some wit and wisdom also. So in Ramana Gita, there is a work called Ramana Gita with 18 chapters. Like Gita, Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. In the very first chapter, a student asks, what is the main characteristic of an illumined, a spiritually elevated person? His answer is, Sarva Bhuta Samatvena Jnanam Uhyatam. You may guess, you may infer, this person must be having the highest illumination. What is the mark? Sarva Bhuta Samatva. Those who respect, those who do not, those who throw brickbats or those who throw flowers at you, as the language goes. So that is reflected here. Who doesn't want that kind of inner and unconditional happiness? You and I, knowingly or unknowingly, depend on various things for our happiness. Our image in the society, bank balance. In fact, even in particular relationships, after a long time, let us say a cousin meets us in some get-together. Moment we see, oh, my cousin has come to this get-together. I didn't know he would be coming. Immediately the machine of our mind, the machine of our memories goes down towards, backwards. That day he was so good to me. On another occasion, he actually disrespected me. I don't know how he will behave. I better be a little careful. And this mind of ours typically hopes that this cousin will behave well, and even if he has some negative thought about me, hope he won't say in front of others. Sometimes he is so irresponsible. How much we get concerned? In fact, it is like we are so dependent upon how even this one cousin treats us. Suppose our mind says, most likely he will make a nasty comment about you in front of all. Then with a soft drink in hand, even as he is coming, we will go to another corner. We will avoid him because he is very temperamental. He may say something nasty. But if you say, but whatever he says, generally he never speaks a lie. He may tell the truth. That is the problem, sir. If he tells the truth, you have a problem in one way. You will say, yeah, it may be truth. What he is going to say, it may be truth. But why should he say it in front of all? Another case is your cousin comes into that get-together and says something which is not true. Then, of course, you say, he tells all lies about me, When he said something true, in one way your ego is hurt. It's none of his business to say. He should keep his mouth shut and so on. If he tells lies, of course. So somehow or the other, being equal to those who may say something unpleasant about us and to those who praise us, talk well of us, is not easy. It's a very tall order. But that is joyous living. When we rise, and through knowledge we can rise. Knowledge is not bookish knowledge. Books are a first step. Knowledge is we have to internalize it, and we have to meet this mind of ours which is rising in desire or getting agitated with anger and so on. As it rises, we need to tackle it. As they say, on the fly. We should not postpone. As anger rises, we should not say, I should not be getting angry, but I'll do one thing. I will get angry, but tonight I will analyze it, and so on. Don't do post-mortem of your anger or some negative emotion. Can you, right at that time, give yourself some space and examine? And can you see what is causing so much of anger in you, so much of desire in you? As the other day I said while answering a question, desire is not monolithic. It's not desire, full stop, desire, period. Actually, desire is rooted in various influences, various conditionings. Desire that you and I have is rooted in memories. Nisargadatta, a great saint of Mumbai, said, desire and fear are major forces that work upon us in life, and if you carefully see, both of them are born of memory. Memory of pleasure enjoyed comes as desire. I want it again. I had come to, let us say, somebody's house, and she made such a delicious upma, let us say. When was that? 7 years ago. And I am again in that town, and I happen to be in that area. Does she still live in this house? If I go there, will I get the same upma today also? And so on. So, memory of upma, South Indian breakfast item, enjoyed 7 years ago, gushes in us, and we hope. And by our good luck, suppose as we are going there, walking maybe, she sees us. Oh, come. Then also we go in. Will we get upma or something else to go? And finally she gives 2 biscuits and tea. For civility, you say, thank you, wonderful tea, and so on. Our mind says, why didn't she give upma today? So desire, as simple as for upma or some other eatable, is actually outcome of a pleasure enjoyed. I've applied to so many emotional, physical, so many things. Pleasure enjoyed. In Hinduism, they connect it to even Purva Sanskara. Even in previous life, if you had enjoyed certain pleasures, in this life, in early childhood itself, we want particular pleasures. Children of the same mother may not have the same desires. One person has, because in Hinduism, last life is brought into the picture, whatever it is. So we have one more verse which also describes how the joyous living is marked by, I would say before going to the shloka, you fully see situations, you fully see behavior of people, you fully see prospects of some enjoyment, you fully see prospect of some discomfort, but even though you are seeing it all, nirvasanat maunat. Vasana means a habitual tendency. Our usual habitual tendency is when there is a pleasure prospect, we want to have it. And when there is some discomfort, we want to escape. Even if we have a duty to perform there, we look for an excuse to get away. Right? Whereas when there is pleasure, even if it is illicit pleasure, even if it is not appropriate for us to go for that enjoyment, our mind tries to find some, excuse. Chalta hai. Once we may take. Just once I will enjoy this. So this wanting to enjoy or wanting to keep away a certain repetitive tendency is called vasana. It is said the difference between vasana and desire is one of cause and effect. If there is a vasana, there will be desire. Desire is well expressed. Vasana is hiding inside. If you and I have coffee vasana and suddenly we get some coffee smell, not all of us would want to go there. Not all of us wish that the coffee will come in. But those of us with coffee vasana, once we get the smell, are looking out. Where is it? Is it available for all? And so on. So vasana is something hidden, and desire for something is an external expression of it. Nasti nirvasanat maunat param sukhakruduttamam vidnat atmasvarupasya swanandarasapayinaha. This illumined lady or man is described in the last line, Swa Ananda Rasa Pai. Pai here means one who drinks. It's not the Hindi pai, maine wo pai, maine wo paya. Hindi pana is to get, to obtain something. In Sanskrit, pa, pana, panaka, then pa becomes pibati. So pai is someone who drinks. This illumined person, once more woman or man, is the drinker of the bliss of inner happiness. Swa Ananda Rasa Pai. This person who is able to enjoy the inner bliss has no vasana, nirvasana. Nir means absence. And there is such a quiet mind. Upon seeing some enjoyments very near, the mind of most people rises in the form of desires, in the form of doubt. There is coffee, but it seems it is for those attending that conference, not for us. I wish it was for everybody. So many hope and fear and associated emotions rise in us. In this person's case, nirvasana and there is mauna. One is fully aware there is coffee, but the mind is free from longing for it. So this absence of vasana, in fact, is very much underestimated or not recognized at all by a lot of people. Most of us do not question our desires. When they say desire, we want to fulfill it. If not today, tomorrow. Many a time a desire arises and I am busy with some work. This evening also I am busy. Weekend I will go there and I will have some enjoyment. Whereas, imagine, your life is marked by, of course, you live happily, whatever is necessary, whatever is essential. See, food is necessary, and spirituality is not at all against delicious food. I hope I did not convey a wrong message. Spirituality very much approves and endorses your desire for healthy food. But what we are talking of is at a wrong time and to wrong extent and being stuck with it. Everything else going to backseat. So the mind which is free from that kind of bugging thoughts, coffee, jalebi, and when will I enjoy, and so on. Thoughts of work, thoughts of doing some duty, thought of extending ourselves for somebody's, service, they take a back seat. They get a beating almost. Because desire rises and says everything else later. First fulfill my desire. The greatest source of happiness, according to Vedanta, is not anything you acquire physically, anything you enjoy on the plane of senses, not any status, not any image. You and I live in the dream of becoming like somebody, being like somebody, some title, some designation. We see that a cousin of ours, he teaches at Harvard, and I have been teaching at the village high school. So the mind says, what it is to be professor at a prestigious university. We want to see ourselves like that. Very understandable. I am not saying it is sin if you have dreams, but we are talking of a certain plane where you rise above even those visualizations. You know what pleasure there can be if you are a professor at Harvard. You know what pleasure it can be if you are a highly praised oncological surgeon in some famous hospital. You know that there are a lot of things in life, a lot of things in this world, and if we were to be in that position, how nice it would be. That is also a vasana actually. While once more I would say spirituality is not against it, but spirituality says, why do you stop at that? Go further. Inquire. Inquire what in life can give you lasting happiness. You become a professor at Harvard and all your relatives, friends and so many of them, really? He was our classmate. He's become Harvard professor. Really? A lot of people will envy you. A lot of people will look at you, and wherever you go, like a girl whom I know, he's running a special laboratory on cancer research in Harvard. I knew her when she was a small girl in San Jose. Recently, the high school where she had studied many years ago invited her to give a special address during the graduation or something. And the whole school, the present students and the teachers received her with great warmth, great regard, because she is a certain researcher of some reputation. She is called in conferences around the world. Her parents, her cousins, all people like me, her gurus, we are all proud of her, no doubt. But really speaking, even such a position, is it something where there is no botheration anymore, no insecurity, no heartburn? Many a time it is not so. Because in human life there are not just pinpricks, so many things happen. Things go haywire. You may continue to be in a wonderful, most enviable position, but the politicians may put some pressure on you in some places. Or some other, you have money and somebody is after your money. And sometimes the politics in departments. Go to any university, go to any corporation, what they call politics. Sometimes gross politics, ugly. Sometimes there is subtle politics. Whatever it is, people live in stress. Kings also, Shakespeare said, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. That's a famous saying. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. So, which head has no form of that uneasiness? Only the head which is blessed with nirvasana mauna. They may also, when you are spiritually elevated, you may occupy a very much envied position, but somehow suppose you have to step aside and go away, you will not be swayed by it. In fact, there are some great people who let go of most enviable positions and then engage in some seva, some service, or move away for a life of meditation in the Himalayas, or whatever. So they see through it. All this position and wealth, etc., for which we are much envied, or if somebody has, we envy them, are not all that hunky-dory story. There are limitations. So it says, na asti sukhakrut. There is nothing which can bring you sukha. Sukhakrut means which brings you happiness. Nothing else is as much a source of happiness as your being able to stay without desire, without vasanas. Your being able to, you go for a walk, let us say, for even 10 minutes, nothing in the world is coming to you causing a certain, I wanted it but never got it. It is said that J. Krishnamurti he acknowledged, go for a walk in the morning, and the word he used is, this morning I went for a walk, not a single thought passed through my mind. But what he means by thought is not thought of the objective nature. These leaves are so green, the bird is chirping, it's so melodious. That is all factual. I have studied his literature. When he said that, it is recorded. I went for a morning walk. No thought passed through my mind. It's a quote. What he meant is no thought of comparison, no thought of some looking down at ourselves, no thought of some hope. I'm almost there. I think in another 2 years I'll fulfill my dream. No such thought, because I and the becoming of that I, what will I become? Generally in the world, you and I, Vedanta teachers also want to become well-known Vedanta speakers. Vedanta writer, I'm introduced as a speaker and writer. The writer also wants her books to be sold, to sell like hotcakes. So hold on. The real spirituality is, with no disrespect for those very valid, desires. Higher spirituality is, in Jnana Yoga we say it, when you know who you truly are, you don't have to have all that glitter and glamour. Vijnata Atma Swarupasya, when you know your own true nature, you will be happy by yourself. So that is a higher state. Of course, for you and me, it's rather difficult, but that's what Shravana is. We say, oh, is that so? Is that possible to be in this world and yet not to make an issue of anything we did not get? Not to make an issue of anything we got. Sometimes when we get something which is much sought after, the way we walk also changes. We put chest up. I hope all of them know what trophy I got last week. These people don't seem to know. So we get filled with that pride if we got what we had sought. And there is pain if we didn't get. Everybody else got, I didn't get, and so on. Once more, no disrespect for that is human life. But Vedanta talks of a further, even higher level. Nirvasana Mona. So Maharshi Ramana, Nisargadatta, many saints and sages, though we can't understand them, but we know that they were at such a high level. In this way, we have covered certain, areas of what is psychological mess, what is rising above it, and what is the bliss of living in freedom. Let me pause here. Is there one or two questions? We'll take one or two, then conclude. Yes?
Why is the reference to the lady this off? Is it just
I sometimes translate with changing the gender. Though some people said, oh, you are confused. Which lady do you have in mind, they ask me. So it is just my way. In my speech also, I said he, she, suddenly, because I think basically all languages have done injustice. Everywhere he is used, not she. Both good and bad things though. Yeah, it's just a translator's liberty. The Sanskrit grammar uses masculine only. If it were feminine, for example, last line, Swananda rasa payinyaha, payini would be feminine. Like brahmachari, brahmacharini. Payi, one who drinks, male. Payini is feminine. And it's sixth case we call it, Shashti Vibhakti. Would be Swananda rasa payinyaha, striyaha. The shloka has put it in masculine, pullinga. But in my English translation, thank you for saying, I'm sure others also wondered. And some might have had doubts. Swamiji keep thinking of some lady, definitely. Whether it is a Vancouver lady or we'll have to find out. No, it is just a liberty. Good question. Thank you all. See you again some other time.